Welcome back to Local Decision. Thank you for joining us. I'm Rusty Ray. This summer we're following candidates for Blaine City Council ahead of the August primary elections. And today we're joined by a candidate for the four-year term in Ward 1, and that's Scott Rosochacki. Scott, nice to see you.
Nice to see you, Rusty.
And I got the name right, so that's a good start.
That is a good start. You know, it makes me feel really good. It is a difficult name.
You say, hey, I'm Scott, I'm running for city council, or you have to coach people through how to pronounce it?
I usually start with my first name and then go into my last name, and then everyone goes to my first name, really.
Okay, that works. That works pretty well. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
So I retired out of the Navy a little over 2 years ago. I used to work as a submarine nuclear electrician, so I worked on a nuclear power plant on board. After that, I was kind of in Hawaii for a little while, and I worked with government and private contractors. I actually saved the Navy about $20 million in contracts because I caught a lot of procedural violations and kind of helped the whole system work better. And then while I was in, I actually earned my master's degree in criminal justice because I wanted to learn more about kind of the different areas and how I can help the people the best.
What brought you to Blaine? Were you in Minnesota before this and then your military experience, or since then have you moved here?
Since then I moved here. I actually moved here because me and my fiance are here, and she lived here and kind of retired out of there. Originally I am from Illinois, but I do love the Midwest, and Minnesota is absolutely a great place, and I'm loving it here.
What does Blaine, in your opinion, what does Blaine have going for it that it would attract more young people, people starting families or starting careers or things like that?
So I think Blaine has a lot going for it. National Sports Center always gets mentioned, but it is a great place. You have a lot of activities there. You have a lot of housing actually being built now pretty rapidly, which is impressive considering the supply chains. But there is a lot of potential kind of in my ward, Ward 1, to build up because we have a lot of projects that are coming up, like the Northtown project, a lot of focuses on Highway 65, and because of that, we're now getting kind of a lot of funding, being able to come there and help out the communities, which will in turn help out the people.
A lot of big ideas for that Northtown Mall area, and that would mean quite a bit for the city, but certainly for Ward 1 and that side of town. And what ideas do you have there, or how do you see how the city is already handling it? Would you take a different approach, or if you could get onto council in this election, would you try to steer it towards a particular idea or direction?
So the Northtown property, as a lot of people know, it's kind of dangerous there. A lack of investment has been there. We actually do have kind of a large homeless population here in Blaine, about 5%, according to last estimates. And so what I want to do kind of with that, as a veteran, because there are homeless veterans there, I want to bring what's called a Veterans Affairs Satellite Hall. And it's like a local clinic, and it could help out veterans get the mental health care they need, get them off the streets, which can also help that area, because a lot of people are scared because of the homelessness population, which caused a lot of businesses to close or struggle. And with that Northtown property, there's that project going on, but the way that I would say the community or the council approached that, they did have a lot of openings to discuss it, but there are areas that don't have broadband, don't have internet, they haven't really gone into that community. So kind of with those projects, I want to go to the community. So if someone's not coming to the city council, with a project like that, you need to go into the community and discuss it with the people rather than wait for them to come to you. That's not the job of the city council. We're supposed to engage, not wait for someone to engage us.
So do you feel like right now city council is just not doing as good a job as they could in that engagement area, and just kind of going through and doing all the procedural things and making decisions as they're supposed to, but you're looking for a little more accessibility or an engagement for the citizens?
Yes, so I'm looking for that engagement, and kind of with the city council, Ward 2 and Ward 3 have had very, very strong candidates. They've had a lot of people, speaking aggressively, hey, bring this project here, all these things. But now because of Ward 1, it's kind of referenced Old Blaine, as everyone knows. You really haven't had those strong candidates, those strong voices to advocate. So I want to turn that page and be a strong voice and be able to talk to the people and get their needs and their wants on the city council rather than all the investment going towards wards 2 or 3 or these special projects.
And you've been doing a little bit of that. You just told me you were doing a lot of door knocking here this summer. And
Yes.
what's that been like for you? And I'm really interested in knowing, has anybody said anything or shared anything with you that was particularly surprising, or that you learned more and they were able to research more about and maybe try to find some of those answers? How's that going?
It's going pretty well. I've had a lot of positive engagement. You know, a lot of people aren't home, but the engagement that I do have is really positive. People are really happy that a city council member is coming to their door, which it kind of upsets me a little, but also kind of makes me happy that I'm the first person that's approached their door. So it makes me feel like I am representing the people, but kind of upsets me in the fact that people aren't reaching out. The other kind of things that I'm learning in the area, a lot of residential areas are being ignored kind of with public programs like snowplows, for instance. They're being focused on county roads or really major roads, and these small residential areas are getting ignored, which kind of causes a public safety issue. You have a lot of areas that don't have sidewalks. I've kind of learned that walking around Blaine. And a lot of people are kind of upset at that fact because they live on busy roads like 89th. One side has a sidewalk, one doesn't. And I got into a very good conversation with someone who lives there, and they're in a wheelchair and they have older people there. So now they have to kind of engage with traffic trying to get their mail or something like that. And one of the other things is unions here. They kind of feel left behind. In 2014, the Anoka County Commission voted to remove prevailing wage, and it kind of pushed all these local unions out. And I've noticed that that a lot of these unions are upset with that, and that the investment into the community, so with roads, we've run across certain sinkholes in areas, and you kind of notice that these projects aren't done well. So I want to bring union representation, local workers back to this area because they have pride in their work. And instead of having these contracting companies coming from North or South Dakota, you know, have that money that could have been used in Blaine being taken out. So that, I think that's a really good way to reinvest in the community and give the people what they need and what they want.
You mentioned a moment ago, I think that anybody running for an office in Blaine has to talk about Highway 65 and all that it represents and all the frustration that people share with it. What ideas do you have, and how do you see yourself in a role on City Council affecting the planning and the implementation of improvements along Highway 65?
Sure. So Highway 65, as we know, has been a long-term project. I think over 20 years people have been talking about it. On the city council level, it's a little interesting because Highway 65 is a county road.
Right.
But we have sent people to Washington recently to try and get funding for the project. We also have funds that are currently being held up in the state government. We have funds for from the bipartisan infrastructure bill that could be used for Highway 65 right away. And one of the things that we don't have in Blaine is someone going to the state capitol, lobbying or advocating for it. So what I really want to do, and kind of in my training coming from the Navy, communication is a huge thing for us. We need to find the right person to talk to. So I'm not just going to sit here in the city. If something needs to be done where I know to go, I'm going to find that answer for the people so I can bring it back here.
The state does have a procedure with its bonding bill. Every couple of years, the state legislatures come here and the city can present to them, and they actually drive on 65 to get here, and so they see the backups and things like that. And there are mechanisms in place to get that funding, but you think maybe finding every way possible, and yeah, we certainly can't take two city council members to DC twice a year to pay for that and to knock on doors, and they can't spend all their time in St. Paul either, right? So,
Yes.
but you think that there are other ways to communicate and to get through to the state that, hey, the money can be spent here, because other communities in the state are fighting just as hard to get St. Paul's attention to get that money.
Yes, and that money, everyone loves to kind of talk about when we don't have enough money, it's really easy to make decisions. But when we have a lot of money like we do now, it's very hard to make these decisions. And kind of the way that I would advocate it is Highway 65 is a public safety issue. There are so many accidents on there. Pedestrians are dying because people aren't paying attention, or the way the lights are designed and the way the roads are. So kind of the way, rather than someone talking about, oh, hey, this road is slightly damaged, we need to talk about the people getting injured. So we're protecting the people with this road instead of just focusing on kind of the infrastructure aspect. It's more of protecting the people.
So you mentioned a lot of different topics and a lot of things that people have shared with you and a lot of things that you kind of see in living and working here. At this point in your life, getting ready to get married and kind of, in this position in your life, why now? Why run for Blaine City Council now for you?
Sure. So all my life I've wanted to help people. It's, to me, something that's just always been there. I was in the Boy Scouts. I love doing service projects. We helped build houses, we cleaned up roads, and that kind of led me to going into the military a little bit. And when I went there, we were helping people. It's not just, hey, we're going out on a submarine and we're going to go do certain things. It's we get to a community and we're helping them, which I really, really liked. And then once I left that community, I was kind of searching for other ways to help people. So I kind of looked and found different things, like the Anoka-Hennepin Secondary Social Studies Committee. I sit on that because I want to learn more about our school system and ways that I can help. It has afforded me the ability to talk to teachers, superintendents, school board members, learn different aspects of that. And I really wanted to get more involved, so I looked at the city council seat, and I thought I fit in really well there because of how well that I'm trained kind of from the military aspect and the ways that I understand and the ways that I just always seek out new information, just being able to help people.
No matter what happens in these elections this year, where do you see Blaine as a community that's growing and evolving? Where do you see Blaine in 10 years?
Wow, Blaine in 10 years. We are absolutely going to expand because we have been growing as a metro. One of the, if not the fastest growing metro outside the Twin Cities. What I would personally like to see is a lot of investment kind of in the base infrastructure. So we have a lot of special projects, new housing, all this, but the base infrastructure like sewage and piping and roads, electrical, internet, these things are kind of getting left behind. I want to hopefully see that change in the future. And if we are allowed to do that, or if I don't win, I'm going to advocate that just to be able to get something for the people in my ward. I'm not just going to sit idly by if I don't make the office. I'm going to hold people accountable.
All right, Scott Rosochacki, thank you for coming by today. We appreciate your time.
Thank you, Rusty. I appreciate it.